So we know what we value, right? We know, the things that are important to us, the things that are important to us in our life. We know the things that are important to us in the context of our health. We know the things that are important to us in the context of our relationships. We know the things that are important to us in the context of business. Whatever context of life, you know that you have values. You know that you have values, and knowing about values, let me share something with you about values. Values are really almost like our little internal guiding compass. They sort of dictate how we feel about what it is that we do. They determine how we spend our time on what we spend. They determine what we spend our time on. They determine, obviously our level of motivation. Did you know that our values are directly linked, if not determined, by our motivation? Or is it the other way around? Our motivation is directly related to our values. So what does that mean? So both me and you know the importance of values. However, if we were to value something, like really, really value it, how do we actually know? How do we actually know that what we're saying to ourselves, what we're seeing, and how we're feeling about the things that we value are actually creating a really rich, positive experience for us in our own thinking, which then allows us to go out and do those things that we want to do, enjoy the things that we want to enjoy. You see, in my field of coaching, whether I'm working with small groups or working with individuals, is that we always initially explore whether someone's moving towards their values and where they want to go, or are they moving away from where they want to go or what they value. And it really comes as quite a surprise when here is an individual, here is someone saying, my whole life has been determined on these 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 values. And once they've come and seen me and really worked out, hey, you know what? Am I actually moving towards that value or away from it? They start to get an insight as to, some of the things that are actually preventing them. And you might say, so how do you do that? Obviously, the first thing we do is we go through the process of identifying what their values are in a given context. And I ask just one question. The one question I ask, in determining whether someone's moving towards their value or away from their value, even though they value whatever it is they value, is I ask this one question. So in the context of blank, or in the context of your career, why is success important? Just for an example. And they will go through and give me a series of responses. And they may sound quite positive initially. But when we dig a little deeper, my thinking behind when I ask that question is to identify, is there any motivation? Is there any motivation that is moving my clients away from where they want to go? And the way we get at that is asking, why is that important? And there's certain language, or we call them linguistic markers, that people use that gives me a bit of a red flag saying, oh, hang on, I need to probe a little bit deeper to see whether there's actually a motivation direction moving them away from where they want to go. Okay, because by the time a client finishes with me, we want to make sure that, I use the word called congruence. We want to make sure that a client or a team of individuals or an organization is saying, thinking, and feeling 100%, yes, I am 100% moving towards these top 10, 8, 6 values in this given context: business, relationships, spirituality, personal growth and development, health, whatever it might be. So, I'm not saying that you have a motivation direction moving away from where you want to go. So let's say a fear of failure. Right? I'm not saying that's necessarily bad. What I am saying is that what we want to make sure of is if there's a problem, if there's any sort of presenting problems in regards to performance, in regards to results in that given context, that you know what, I'd much rather have all my clients moving towards exactly where they want to go, and their motivation direction, their drive is actually moving them towards that. But still being aware of the things that might be coming into their senses, and knowing that there are going to be some challenges. You know, as we know, there are going to be some challenges every single day. So the question is, you know, why is I'll use an example of value. Why is success important to you in the context of your career? That's just an example. So what we really want to get at here, guys, we really want to get at, you know, is there any motivation that's moving us away? A fear of failure, frustration, anger, sadness. You'll be surprised when you ask this question. Even when you ask this question of yourself, and it's a bit of it like a little task that I'm going to get you to do, is to really identify. You know, when I think about the value, we'll use another example in relationship. When I think about the value of honesty in the context of relationship or relation, how does that make me feel? You know, do I actually feel it? You know, what am I seeing and what am I saying to myself? That's sort of how you know when you've got it. You know, someone might say, you know, why is someone may give me a response. So I might say, so why is health important to you in the context of your career? Use career again. And they'll say, you know, so I don't get unhealthy, so I don't get sick. It sounds like it's sort of moving us away from health because we're not really focusing on it, are we? However, that may not necessarily be the case. But what is the case is, you know, how does it really feel inside? What are you saying to yourself? You know, what are you saying to yourself? What are you hearing? What are you feeling? Are these responses moving me towards my value of whatever the value is of where I want to go? So the question here, guys, a little task you do for yourself, choose one context or two. Ideally, you want to choose all contexts, you know, relationships, your career, personal development or personal growth, health and fitness. You could even go spirituality. They're sort of the 5 sort of areas that I generally work on with my clients. But one thing I want you to do, one thing that I want you to do right now is choose one context. Just go ahead and choose one context. Choose one context and just get a list of values. So what's important to you in the context of your career? What's important to you in the context of your relationships? And just go ahead and get a list. And maybe once you've got 10, go ahead and order those 10. Just do it just really quickly. So what's the most important? What's number 1? What's number 2? What's number 3? Okay. And then for each of those values, what I want you to do is ask yourself, why is blank value important to me in the context of whatever the context is that you're working with? Why is that important? And just write it down. And then ask yourself again, so why else is it important? I would ask yourself 3 or 4 times. And guys, what I want you to do as you're writing it down, these responses, notice this. Are you using any negatives? So I shouldn't do this, I can't do that. So I don't do this or I don't do that. Are you using the words need to, have to, must, try? If you're using any words that are comparing, so better than, compared to, these are the sorts of words you're looking for that will identify whether you're moving away from the value that we're exploring in whatever given context. So that's a question. So the question is, so why is blank value important to you in the context of blank, whatever the career is? And get 4 or 5 responses and look for the have tos, the need tos, the shoulds, the shouldn'ts, the negations, the negatives. So don'ts, can'ts, any comparisons better than, compared to, you know, because what we want to make sure of is that for the purpose of this process, once you explore it, when you address one value, all I want you to do is, once you've asked yourself those questions, that one question 3 or 4 times on each of the value, then notice how you feel. Notice what pictures are coming up, the sounds, thoughts, feelings, and emotions. Okay. Then ask yourself, on that value, what percentage away is the value in the context that you're working on? So how much do you feel inside that you're actually moving away from that? And just trust whatever comes up. I know you talk about percentages and all this stuff, but whatever comes up, have a look at your responses. Think about it. Based on the responses I've given, and based on how I feel and what I'm thinking, what I'm saying to myself, and what I'm seeing inside my head, what percentage of that value is away? What percentage of that value is being moved away from where you want to go? Yes, you still value it. Of course, you still value it. But that's not the case here. Is identifying what the away froms are. Remember, away froms and towards both motivate us. They both have a lot of energy. But it's about identifying the away froms, identifying any conflicts, identifying any limiting beliefs, identifying any negative emotions that are associated with these values, okay, and then working on a strategy to be able to let it all go, so you can make sure that you're moving 100% towards exactly where you want to go in any part of your life. If you want to find out how to do that, if you want to find out how to let go of those limiting beliefs that may come up through this little process, through negative emotions, frustration, doubts, insecurities and fears, or whatever it might be sure to jump onto my website, www.deancasamento.com.au, or email me. Why not email me directly on dean@deancasamento.com.au. Guys, I hope you enjoyed this. Little vid. Stay tuned. There is plenty more to come. Thanks.